It's working. Welcome to Elevate Today podcast. I am here with Arpinder Kaur. Yeah.
Arpinder
Kaur.
Kaur.
And you just graduated high school and you're officially on your way to UCLA in less than a few days.
Yes.
How does it feel?
You know what? Everyone's been asking me that question and I don't really have an answer. Like, it's not like I'm counting down the days or the hours until I get to move in and start this new chapter of my life. And it's crazy because growing up, like, college, fortunately for me, has always been in the picture, right? Like, I knew I was going to come here. And UCLA has been my dream school since I knew what college was. So so you'd think that I'm super excited for it and I can't wait for it. I'm counting down the days. But in reality, like, I'm literally just so invested in, like, my life now and, like, taking in, like, my family and my friendships and the work that I'm doing. Honestly, maybe a little too much because I haven't even dorm shopped yet.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And
wow.
I have, like, less than 7 days now before I go. So I honestly don't know. Like, I haven't looked into the school enough. Like, little things. Like, I kind of have a general idea, I guess I would say. And I'm pretty prepared. But beyond, like, the basic necessities that I need for my first month there, like, I haven't looked into it super deep, which is a good and bad thing. So yes, I'm excited, but I'm very indifferent about it.
Well, you're so ambitious that I think that's such a smart method to just have a goal, do it, get there, and then kind of be like, oh, here's the little things that you have to touch up.
Yeah.
Because you're going to your dream school.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then, like, it was kind of crazy when I found out I was going to my dream school. My college applications were actually a little crazy. I applied to 25 schools. Wow. I did 5 early action and I got into 3 of them, and these 3 were like my safeties, right, where my stats fit like very well above the average, and the acceptance rates were decently like on the higher side. Out of the 25 schools I applied to, other than those 3, after the application process was kind of crazy, but after applying and getting into those, I realized after that I couldn't even afford them, right? They weren't even in the question for me to attend because they were private universities that I personally didn't have my heart and mind set on. And with the educational path I took in high school, it wouldn't have been ideal for that in a 4-year, because the school that I went to, I'm graduating with my general education done. So I'm graduating with 2 years of 2 years of college completed and 2 associate's degrees.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's the benefit. I remember that when I was applying to schools for high school.
Right, exactly. So going to a private university, they wouldn't have accepted those credits anyways, right? And they were too expensive. So not only would I had to have paid that much more, I would have had to pay for 4 years. Whereas if I were to go to a public school, the tuition would be less and I'd only have to stay for 2 years. So those were the only 3 I got into. Out of the other 18 that I did regular decision, 18 schools, I only got into 1. Got into 1. And I didn't do like Stanford, Harvard, any Ivy, nothing even close. UCLA and UC Berkeley were the biggest schools that I applied to. And I almost didn't apply to UCLA. I almost didn't check the box because I didn't think I could get there.
Wow.
And at the end of the day, it's the one school I got into. I was rejected from Pepperdine. San Jose State denied me admission on like false basis because they said that I didn't meet the entrance requirements. Which is obviously not true because in order to graduate from my school, I had to exceed them. But at the end of the day, they wouldn't accept my appeal. So at the end of the day, SJC wasn't an option. So out of all the schools I applied to, I had no option. 5 schools left to hear back from. And these were like the harder schools to get into, you could say. And I got into UCLA.
That's wild.
Yeah.
You should tell the other ones. The other schools like, it's okay, I don't need you anymore.
Oh yeah, my mom was like, send this to SJC.
Yeah.
But that's why like it's very hard to believe it's real, right? Like, it's here, but it's so crazy because I know how hard this past March was. Like, I know how much pressure it was and how like uncertain the future was and how much that scared me.
Yeah.
So I naturally kind of stopped thinking about it. So now when I think about going to college, it genuinely doesn't feel real. I had a 3-day in-person orientation a couple weeks ago and it felt like a field trip. Right? So yes, I'm going next week, but it's so crazy to think about that I got there and how I got there. So I'll deal with it when I'm there.
For real.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because you really have like earned it. You've done so much, at least from what I know, and there's obviously so much I don't know. Like, the things that you're into, you've definitely earned this point, but it's also crazy how much you've done before high school. Do you want to like list off some of the things that you've started? Like the community things, the nonprofit.
Right. So It started off when I was 14 years old, and I founded a 501c3 nonprofit called Empowering Excellence. And the mission statement of it was to provide underprivileged students with opportunities to help them exceed and like excel and be excellent in the educational environment, right? Because I was fortunate and privileged enough that though I am a first generation immigrant, though my father has worked the longest hours I've ever seen in my entire life, that never impacted my education, right? And that was, I think, unique to my family, whereas not every student had that. So, right, so even growing up in schools and stuff, I noticed that, and I was aware of that in my surroundings. So when I was given the platform to start a nonprofit, that's what I did it for. And then that was the very first thing I did. And from there, my opportunities just grew, right? Because I'm a firm believer of you attract what you are, right? So I became someone, like I grew into a leader, right? I grew into someone who was hungry to make a difference, like in my community.
Yeah.
And the opportunities from there just opened up. And I have absolutely nothing but like gratitude for them. So from there, my very first event that I did for my nonprofit, I invited a bunch of like fancy people from the community, right?
Wow.
And one of them, only one showed up, only one. And that was the executive director of the Mount Madonna YMCA. I didn't expect her to show up, but she did. And she sat there and she painted and everything. And obviously, as the executive director of my organization, I stood there and I gave a speech, right? I talked about my mission. I talked about, thank you for coming here and supporting me at my first event. Like, thank you for trusting a little girl with this big dream that she has. And the executive director heard me speak and she was like, I want you. And so from there, I became the first youth board member to sit on the Mount Madonna YMCA Board of Managers and the YMCA Board of Managers in general, like within 122 countries. So they created like that youth position because there are 3 pillars to the YMCA, right? So there's social responsibility, healthy living, and youth development, right? That youth development part is what they were lacking representation-wise on their board, right? So that's where I would come in, is to advocate for that community. So that opened up, like just that one nonprofit thing that I did, that one event, that one person that was there, opened up an entire sea of opportunities for me.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So from there, I sat on the board and then met amazing influential people in the community, right? I was constantly surrounded by people that were older than me, people that had already dedicated their entire lives to community service. And from there were a couple things just in between. I entered for the city council. And then, yeah, there's just a couple more things in between, but the YMCA has genuinely been like a huge part of what I am. So after sitting on the board, I created my own like youth board branch underneath the board of managers. So I founded a board and then I chaired it for a year. And then we're transitioning into our next year now, doing a lot of events just tailored to the youth, right? And a lot of that consists of us sitting there brainstorming. And the people that sit on my board are very intentionally there. It's not just anyone is sitting there. Everyone represents something different. Everyone has something different to say. Everyone has something else to contribute. And that means so much to me.
And what is it like on the board? Does this mean you're with a group of adults, like having like a meeting?
Yeah. So a lot of it is like, you could say like technical stuff as well, right? And like the foundational stuff to running that branch of the YMCA. But that's just like the monthly meetings, right? But a lot of...
And you were a teenager?
I was 14.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy.
That'd be mind-blowing to see.
Yeah. And like from there, I just learned so much and I grew so much because like... And that's how I learned that you're a product of your environment, right? My environment was people that are dedicated to changing like their community, right? So naturally, like my hunger to make a difference just grew. It exponentially grew. And not only did I have like that environment, but I had the platform, right? With the platform of the YMCA, with its mission, with its resources, with its outreach in the community, there was so much potential of what could be done, right? But I'm just one person, right? I have 2 hands. I have 24 hours in the day, right? Which is why it was so important to me to create a board of like-minded people like me, right? And then also give this, like the people who sit on my board, my youth board, they're all teenagers that have that same mindset, that same drive, that same purpose to make a difference in their community. Give them that same platform to be like, this is what I notice in my community. This is what we can do.
And where do you meet this group of people?
We meet in the Morgan Hill CRC in the Teen Center. Wow. Usually. And there's like a meeting room as well. But we're like, a lot of the developmental and like structural part of the board, because it's like it was created, right? Like there's no just page that I can open and it has like a description of the youth board.
Yeah.
Right. It took like a lot of time and a lot of trial and error to see how many times are we meeting a month, how many people are there, how many leadership positions are there, like what are we doing kind of thing, like what are our core values. So after developing that for about a year, right, like I can very confidently say that like we're on a very steady trajectory now, with very clear goals in mind and very dedicated people to make those happen.
And what are the common patterns of behavior that you're noticing as an issue with like the youth right now?
There's a huge disconnect between like vision and goals and like the dream and your future and like your own, like genuinely your own motivation, right? Your own purpose. There's a huge disconnect between that and like the youth now, right? I feel like it's very easy as a kid to get sucked into your own bubble, right? Or as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old to get sucked into your own bubble and that own pattern of just school, right? Of just like the things going on with your friends, right? Especially if you don't have that environment to bring something more out of you, right? And again, I owe everything I've ever done and more to the people around me, right? Those are the people who brought it out of me. And I knew that if I didn't have the mom that I have, if I didn't have the dad that I have, if I didn't have the mentors that I have, I would be in a completely different position, right? A completely different position. So a lot of like part of the events that we do, like we have something called Common Connection, right? Where it's literally like every single month on the first Friday of the month, we choose a different topic, invite people from the community to come, and it's held in the teen center. So teens are welcome. And it's, you sit in a big round table and you have that conversation with like influential people in the community. So for one of the first ones, we had the mayor there. Right. And we were just talking about like LGBTQ support, like within the community and within schools and things like that. And it, like the entire purpose of it is just to create that environment and that atmosphere for just anyone, like just any teenager. Right. And then obviously, as you know, like we have an event coming up this Sunday, right, or in the next few days, solely geared towards like women empowerment and women change makers. So that's something that I personally am super passionate about. And like, I'm so grateful that I have the platform and the team and the people and the resources to be able to execute something like that.
So you planned this?
I and my team planned it.
Wow,
So,
that's wild. And it's going to be in Gilroy.
Yes, it's at the Neon Exchange in Gilroy.
So the whole purpose and intention of this is to inspire the youth. Inspire women youth in the community.
Women youth, yes. And everything I do and everything that I have done, I don't just do. Right? It comes from a place of like something from my past. So this event is so important to me because it's one, the last thing I'm doing before I go to college, right? Before I move into like this whole new world with whole new people. This is the last thing that has my like hands on it, right? At least for now. Obviously I'm not going anywhere, but at least for now, this is one of the last things that has my hands on it. Because on my 14th birthday, which is very coincidental that on my 14th birthday that year, this conference just landed at the same time. But I was obviously a student council kid growing up. So in middle school, we like our student council had the opportunity to go to this like leadership conference. And there, this woman spoke and she changed my life. She changed my life right then and there. And like that is what like started that hunger to do something with my life, to have a purpose, because I saw someone on stage that I wanted to be like. Right, I saw someone with the same power, that same desire, that same like purpose in her life, and I wanted it. That right there changed my life. So this event that's in a few days, it's 5 so amazing women that I've seen do absolutely incredible things every single day. They don't have, it's not because they have a title of a leader or a title of a CEO or a title of a host or a title of a screenwriter or something. It's because they wake up every morning and they go to sleep every night with the dedication to service, right? With the dedication to impact people with every little thing that they do. And it's like the event and like the people, like the young women attending this event, there is just so much in the air for them to grab and for them to hang on to, and for that to start like their journey of, I can do this. I can be like that woman. I can be like that girl. Like that, I see myself in her. That's my whole goal. Right? That is my entire goal. And if I could just do that same, like the same thing for even one of those 30 attendees, just one of them, like that would mean the absolute world to me, because that changed my life. Right? And I'm so fortunate that I have the platform to do that. Right? It's very rare that like everything I do just stays with me. Right? I want to give back to everyone, probably more than I need to. Right? I get told that a lot, but like someone inspired me in that way. And even if I myself am not able to, you know, talk the same way that one speaker did, right? Like I was able to find women who can, right? Find women who can share their journey and their story and like their light. Everyone has so much light in them, right? So much light. It's too much for one person, right? Service is so huge, and giving back to others is so huge. And one of my absolute favorite like motivational speakers says this, but he says, do not die with greatness still inside of you, right? Do not die with greatness still inside of you. Yeah. And like that, I hold on to that so strong. So even just having a platform and an event where like women can sit up there and share just who they are, that alone is more than enough to get someone started on like this journey to just service for the rest of their life.
That is wild. I rarely ever hear someone so certain about impacting and helping women and people and help others be inspired and live out of that light space. That is so amazing. That's like you're clear on that, you know? And I think it's really easy to hide behind things with a good intention, and not even hide, but like, you know, when you see someone at the gym every day, it's easy to be like encouraging and be a good friend, be a good teammate, whatever that looks like. But when you can just be like, people are not okay. We need to be joyful. We need to be encouraging. We need to like remind each other that hard work is still hard, but it's worth working for. Like dreaming big, abundance, just there's more out there. We can all dream bigger and actually get to that dream. And it hypes me up, and I'm super excited to see how Sunday goes down. And I would also say that it feels like there's a shift in times right now where women more than ever need each other, but they're drawn to each other right now. I don't know if it's the Barbie movie or something, because I feel like girls just embrace their girly side like so much.
Right.
But I've also heard a lot of women that are like, women need each other right now. Women need each other right now. Just to the togetherness, like the community, how, like we were saying on the couch, like men come together. Oh God, that scared me. Men come together, and together they're so powerful and strong, and we see that through wars and sports and stuff like that. But women coming together, it's very different, because women are so like feelings and heart intention, and like every person matters, like having that mother side to them.
Right.
Seeing more of that is so exciting, and I'm so excited to see what you're gonna do on Sunday.
Right. And I think a huge part of like that women coming together part of it, and just like historically has always been like motherhood brings them together, right? Where it's like women become mother, at least from what I've seen. Don't actually have like expertise in this, but at least from what I've noticed, like with my mom and like with my older friends and stuff, like when they have kids, they have a different form of like womanhood bond, right? That's what they connect on. That's what they relate to things, right? But I also don't think you should have to wait till you become a mother, right? You should have to wait until you get married to be able to relate to women on certain things, or to be able to have that bond, right? So even starting young, right? So even like having that youth environment where you can build that connection with women, right? Instead of having to hide it, or instead of having to do it on your own kind of thing. Because like you said, like this isn't very common. Like growing up, none of my friends, or very few of them, right? People my own age didn't talk about this kind of stuff, right? I only very recently, despite having done so much from such a young age, I only recently started listening to podcasts. I only recently started to wake up not grumpy and wake up with gratitude, right? I only recently started to have a genuine goal in my future to work towards. And that doesn't mean that like my mission and the reason I did things wasn't there to begin with, right? But like, I think young women having that environment, right, and knowing that they are supported in that sense to come together and to be strong and to have a goal, right, from a young age, like I feel like that can make such a difference. And not having to wait till like, right, like motherhood, or just like bonding over the fact that we're underrepresented in some workplaces, right, or bonding over like hard things, if that makes sense.
I always wonder too, because like I think that there's power in all kind of women, even from different opinions and beliefs. There's just things that unite us all in the same way. And I'm trying to think of like what those words are. Like, I mean, some women are just kind of always going to be tough, but just heart intention, just leading with their hearts. Or something that girls do very different than guys is they can just talk so much about like the intricate detail of feelings and stuff like that, or just the way of life. Like, they're so flowy. I've heard that men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti in their thinking process.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like even historically from what I've like read and stuff, like as a political science major, right, even like really focusing in on the gender studies aspect of it, like women weren't always appreciated for that, I feel like, right? Like even historically and like traditionally, right? Like being able to make that heartfelt connection, being able to have that kind of approach to things would label a lot of women as emotional, right? Or not necessarily as capable in whatever sense. But it genuinely is such a strength, right? To have that empathy and to be able to connect with people on that level.
Yeah. Like cultural development is kind of what you have to study too.
Hopefully. We'll see. We'll see.
Because traditionally and just way back when in most cultures, it was like you're really only young and single for like 18 years.
Right.
And all of us know someone who's got married at 18, or like our parents got married at like in their early 20s.
Right.
And so they really don't have a season of time to develop strong and empowering bonds with other women of their passion or interest, or just like women to develop with in life. It's like there's this weird window that was never taught about because it was really you're young and a kid and then you fall in love, and like we're the generation that didn't get married right when you became an adult.
Right.
It's us.
It is us.
Because your parents got married right when they were young.
Yeah, totally. It was so cultural. It was one of the most cultural things I've ever seen. My mom was 19 and she had an arranged marriage.
Yeah.
And then from there, she moved to a country where she hardly spoke the language, right? And my dad was very, very hardworking from the very start, before my mom even got here, because he immigrated here at 17, worked his butt off, and minimum wage back then was like, what, $3, $4, right? Wow. With that, he went back, got married to my mom, right? And then he went back to India, got married to my mom, then came back, bought a whole house, the house that I was born in and to this day live in, on his $3, $4 minimum wage. That's how hardworking this man was. That's bought crazy. A house, so when my mom came from India, she had a beautiful house to come home to. Wow. Like, that is the environment I grew in. But you're right, like my mom was married very early on, and my mom is one of the most influential people in my life, whether she realizes it or not. She'll tell everyone that I don't wash the dishes. But beyond
that's terrible.
Yeah, I know. But beyond that, like, so much of what I do is to make her proud, because she's told me from so early on that she sees herself in me. In so many ways. Is actually kind of crazy. Like, I did track and cross country back in middle school, and I held like one of the records for fastest like sprints, like 100-meter sprints.
Oh, dang.
And my mom could beat me in a 100-meter sprint. Like, after like having 3 kids, she could still beat me in 100 meters. Yeah, kind of crazy, right?
Really good.
Yeah. But that's just one of like the, I guess, metaphorical examples of we are very, very similar, right? And my mom, at like my age now, like I'm 18, right? Like at this point in my mom's life, like she was already getting married off, right? She had so much light in her and she had so much to give. Her ambition, like my ambitions, just honestly very coincidentally line up exactly with hers. And I didn't even realize that until I was old enough to have those conversations with her, right? So everything I do it knowing that like my mom is doing it vicariously through me, because she never could, right? Like her culture and just the tradition of getting married so young, like didn't let her. And it's nothing against like arranged marriages necessarily. I'm so fortunate that my parents genuinely love each other, right? Like my household environment is so healthy, and I commend them for that, because it's not easy being so young, being married, moving to a country where the, you know, taxes are hard to do, and like figuring it out, and like very successfully raising 3 beautiful children. And like despite everything, despite the financial challenges, despite my mom not even knowing, like at that point not even knowing what her favorite color was, like that breaks my heart. To this day, if I ask my mom what her favorite color is, she doesn't know. Like that is how much of herself she gave up, and that is how much of herself she just invested in her kids, and like crossed her fingers and hoped that they turn out okay, right? Like she gave everything for us, and I genuinely owe everything to her, and to my dad for, despite everything being so traditional, despite them having every single reason in the world, right, to not let me do political science or to not let me be like super invested in personal development and like to basically do anything other than be a doctor, engineer, or like that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
Like they had every reason not to do that, and never, not once in my life have they not supported me. Like I was 12 and I started a slime business, and my dad was like, you know, he invested in my company and
That's
he paid.
so cute.
Yeah. It's like, it's the little things like that that I will never forget. Like it's not like we had like a couple $100s to just throw on the side, right? But they invested in me and my growth and what I wanted to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it started for you when you were young. Like it was in you when you were young.
Yeah.
You started business, it made stuff when you were like a kid?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like I had a little, and it was obviously back with the demand. I was very strategic about it. Like,
Yeah.
like when I was 10, like Rainbow Loom was popping. So I made everyone bracelets, sold them for like $5 a pop. It was like crazy profit. And
Crazy profit. That's awesome.
And then like when I was 12, like slime was the thing, right? And then when I was 14 and like pandemic hit, henna artists were huge. That's actually how I met you. I don't know if you remember. I did your henna.
There's no way that was that long ago.
Yeah.
No.
It was COVID years.
What?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. So back when, like, obviously I'd done henna for a really long time because I'm very, very rooted to my culture.
Yeah.
I love my name. I love where I come from, right? I love India. I love the food that we eat. I love this, like, I only listen to Indian music kind of thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's amazing. But when I was 14, like, I started Core Creations, which is like my own henna business, right? And when pandemic hit and like people weren't always getting married and things like that, but henna artists also weren't traveling as much or doing henna, like a lot of the local people or like a lot of local like community members in any community like needed their henna done, right? So obviously like network marketing kind of thing, someone knows someone, people knew me, and I just got started doing bridal henna and like henna for events and stuff.
Wow.
And that's how I met you, because I think I have some sort of like relationship or contact with your best friend, and I did your henna once, and that's how we connected. And I thought it was just so amazing. Like, I think back then you were just starting your podcast, like you were just barely starting it. And I think that was so incredible to see like how far you've come, right? And how something as small as like one of my hobbies, right, brought us close to like talk about things like this that people don't always talk about, right? Like these aren't conversations that I can just have with just about anyone.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy because I remember when I met you, I was like, oh, you're so like, you're young, you're in high school. That's cool. You started your own business, especially for, I think it was an anniversary.
I think so.
Yeah, it was like an anniversary, and you did like...
it was this huge anniversary party for Annie's parents, I think. Yeah.
Annie's parents know how to party. Shout out. But yeah, you did a lot of girls henna back to back.
Yeah.
And you were just like I don't know if you mentioned to me that you've done a podcast or you were even into it. Was it our conversation?
Yeah. I think you were talking to Annie about like your podcast or something, and I was just there. So I was like, oh, like I was just there. And I was like, oh, like that's so cool. Like, cause I had done a podcast once before, and had been on one, and it was just huge for me, right? Because like I said, just doing something for myself is never enough. I always have to give back in some way. I have too much light in me to just keep to myself. And sometimes that's as simple as literally just sitting here and talking to each other and hoping that whoever is listening takes something away from it, right? So doing a podcast at 14 was huge for me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, right? So hearing that like you were starting one, like that platform itself was amazing.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
And I love how you put it that way, because this is like a self-help time where it's all like help yourself and try to find peace within yourself. And so sometimes I think like maybe I'm finding like my worth and my identity and things that I do and accomplish, you know, like maybe I'm just trying to care too much. Maybe I care too much. I need to calm down and focus on myself and do me. But it's like it's not really a choice. And it's also like when you have so much light to give, you just have to give it. When you have messages on your heart or ideas on your mind and your heart just has more to give, you have to just give it. Not like I'm doing too much, let me find contentment doing, like just being with myself. For some people, it's not about just like, this is good now, I'm done, I've done my part, but like there's more in me. And it's a privilege to keep giving even when I'm a little burnt out, you know, even when you have to back-to-back meetings and you don't get your downtime in between. It's a privilege to have so much love and joy to give that it's never a problem.
Yeah.
Like there'll be times when you might face moments where you're like, all right, how do I like make me happy apart from making someone else happy? And then that's just a time where you get to find that when you feel it.
Right.
Because it is a beautiful joy to find joy in developing and helping others.
It is so purposeful. It's literally like, I don't remember who told me this, but they said service is food for the soul, right? Service is food for the soul. And for me, regardless of how tired I am, right? Like how burnt out I am, that aspect of my life has always proved to be bigger, has always proved to be more powerful, right? It's just because it just feels so good to give back to other people, right? To know that whatever you do is hopefully, you know, crossing fingers in some way, like impacting someone and making a difference, right? But it's also like, I feel like very rarely talked about how exhausting it does get sometimes, right? How like feeling like if you're not doing something, you have no purpose, right? And that's why, like, for me personally, sometimes it is like back-to-back meetings, right? And back-to-back things to do and back-to-back people to see. And it's not even like necessarily for a people-pleasing thing or to make others proud, right? But it's to feed me and myself and to let me know that I'm not wasting like an hour of my day. I'm not wasting a minute of like my time here, and I'm constantly doing something. But it's like this vicious little hamster wheel, right? Or like this rabbit hole that you go down. You just keep going and you keep going and you keep going, and then you get burnt out. And then you feel bad about being burnt out because at least for me, when I get burnt out, I feel like it's this huge chunk of time burnt out that I'm wasting because I'm not doing anything.
Yep.
It's just this whole exhaustion wheel because I'm exhausted, and then I'm mad that I'm exhausted, but then I get exhausted from being mad. So and again, this is what I've been really focusing on recently, and that's why I think like that self-development part is so important, and that self-care is genuinely so important, like down to the core.
How do you do it?
How do I do it? Whoa.
Yes. Well, I love that.
I definitely am still figuring it out, but it was very small things. Like, I've heard this phrase for so long and I never took it seriously until now, but giving myself grace, right? As simple as that sounds, but genuinely just not being rude to yourself, right? And I say that in the sense of no one puts more pressure on me than I do on myself. Right? No one puts more pressure on me than I do on myself. So it used to be very easy for me to get upset when I didn't get through my to-do list, or get upset when I didn't do A, B, and C, or when something didn't work out my way. And like getting upset was exhausting. It was very defeating, right? Very defeating. And it's hard to give back. It's hard to step up when you're defeated. Yeah. Right? So things as simple as giving myself grace was one. And the way that I started doing that was a couple weeks ago, actually no, it's been a couple months now, I replaced my music with podcasts. So like
so smart.
Oh yeah. So like in the car, like when don't get me wrong, I'll still like bust out an occasional Beyonce, but like
yes, always.
But more or less, like when I get up and I'm driving to wherever I need to be in the morning, the first thing I do is I don't put on some sort of like sad song or some sort of even like happy rap song, right? Like the first thing I do is I put on a podcast that talks about like, how are you doing today? Right? Like, what are your goals for today? What are your intentions for today? How are you going to accomplish those? Right? Like be proud of yourself, right? Give yourself grace, where it's someone literally reminding you to check in with yourself, because it gets hard to do it with yourself sometimes. Like, I feel like the reason people don't prioritize self-care is because if not done properly, it can become a chore. It'll feel like a chore. Sometimes it feels like journaling is like an extra thing that you have to do, right? Or having a goal or scheduling your day beforehand, like it turns into this extra 5 minutes that you'd rather just be in bed for, right? Because that's how it used to be for me, right? But having like even like a podcast of someone else's voice reminding you why you even are listening to that podcast to begin with, right? Why did you even put it on, right? And someone said this and it like completely changed. I was like, whoa, you're so right. But like for so long, for the past many years, right, I've been like, I want to change my life. I don't want to be this tired. I don't want everything I'm doing to be so exhausting and time consuming, because yes, I got it done, right? Yes, I did a lot of things, but I know how hard I was like paddling, right? Like duck syndrome, right? So like on the surface, when a duck is just, you know, swimming, it's kind of just gliding, right? It looks like it's kind of just vibing, floating, not working that hard. Yeah. Underneath the water, what no one sees is how hard that duck is paddling, right? How hard that duck is paddling. And at a certain point, it gets exhausting, right? So for me, a lot of it was like, I want to change. What am I going to do? And then it was like trying to force myself to do to-do lists and making like a drastic change overnight, right? And that just felt like a chore. Yeah. So I couldn't do it for very long. I did it for a week, 2 weeks max. And then I gave up. And then it was back to that same cycle, right? So really learning that like self-care doesn't have to be a chore. It can be as simple as you're already driving, you're already on your way something, you're going to be listening to something, right? Might as well be listening to something else. And someone once said, changing doesn't take time, right? Changing doesn't take time, but deciding to change takes time, right? Deciding to make change is what takes time. And it's not like a, oh, I want to do it, let me do it kind of thing, right? But it's genuinely like, I want to do it, and this is exactly what I'm going to do to get there. A tangible, reasonable goal. So for me, it started out literally as simple as replacing my music with podcasts. And then from there, like very recently, I started writing my goals in the morning. And it's the same thing every single day. Okay, maybe I'll like change it here and there.
Do you like to announce it?
They're a little personal. But and they're a little bit work related as well. But it's goals with very set dates.
I like
right?
that.
Goals with set dates. And to some extent, it's like manifesting it into the world, right? Like this, by this date, this is what I'm going to have.
Wow.
And it just reminds me of why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? Why am I here? It's because I have a goal. It's because I have a goal. And that makes it so much less exhausting. So much less exhausting. And a huge part of, I think, just self-care and being like high performance, I guess is the word you could say, is discipline, right? Every person who has like every motivational speaker I've ever heard, right? They emphasize discipline. They say discipline is freedom. Discipline is freedom.
Yeah.
Right? For me, like my definition of discipline was very skewed at first, right? I was like, I need to be up at 6 a.m. every single day. I have to follow a strict, tight schedule down to the minute. Like that was exhausting, and it didn't work, and it was defeating when it didn't work.
Yeah.
Right? But what my discipline has now turned into, very slowly but very surely, is listening to podcasts, right? And then I started writing my goals in the morning, and then I started saying them out loud in the shower, like genuinely just being grateful. And when I opened my eyes, I stopped going to my phone first, right? When I used to do this so often, but I opened my eyes and I'd open Instagram at the same time, right? And just start my morning off, connecting with the world. So instead of connecting with the world, I've really been focusing on connecting with myself in the morning. And as simple as that is literally just laying there and being like, wow, like I genuinely am grateful for my mom because she's about to make me breakfast right now, right?
No.
So it's like, it's little things like that seem so not important at first. Like it doesn't seem like it's going to make a drastic change in your life, right? But then over time, like when you realize that you're not as exhausted, right? Where your mind doesn't automatically divert to what's hard or what's not going so great. It doesn't automatically divert to the negative. That's because you're training it to be more positive, very slowly but very surely. And what really did it for me was when I accepted that it's not going to be an overnight shift. I accepted that it's not going to be an overnight shift. And I also accepted that I don't want to be 35 years old trying to do it then, right?
Yeah, that's so real.
Like a lot of people realize it way later in their life, right? And then they try doing it then. And no shame to that, of course. Whenever you're ready, whenever the time is right for you.
It's exciting to learn those things a little earlier. Like, yes, I'm still young. Like, let me figure this out as fast as I can.
Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of like what that has turned into for me, and genuinely just being like nicer to myself, not beating myself up as much. And like,
yeah. And I like how you lead with like, you say for self-help, have grace for yourself, because even the classic self-help to-dos being take a bath, read, journal write, pray, go on a walk, pool time, like those things, they could really feel so stressful when you have a free day or a free evening and all of a sudden you get home and you're like, all right, let me read. It feels like work. And by the time you finish writing and reading, it's just a whole nother task.
Oh yeah.
Or like you just want to go to bed. As soon as you have the free time and your body's just exhausted, you just sleep. But if you just think of like, what do you know deep down what you need? If you like take a sec to think, if you were your best friend and you wanted to have grace for her because you know she's been going through it, what would help her out right now? I'm like, when you think about that for a friend, it's easy to think, I'm going to get her coffee, or I'm going to get her flowers, or she needs to be taken out. We're going to get her nails done.
Exactly.
And the fact that we could just put that on ourselves, it doesn't even feel familiar to be like, I really want takeout right now, and I'm going to put my feet in the pool. Yeah. Because that's what I want.
And that's totally
I could
okay.
do. Yeah. Like it's that grace, and it's that, what would you do if it was for someone that you really loved? And it's unfortunate, but sometimes it takes that perspective shift to treat ourselves like someone we love.
Yeah. Because a huge part of like not being happy and content with your life and where you are in your life, is not having that love and that respect for yourself, right? And the being proud of your accomplishments and being proud of how far you've come. I also started doing this pretty recently, but if I look back at who I was 3 months ago alone, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal, right? Drastically a different person than I am today. And not in a way that anyone else can see. No one else can tell the different person that I am from 3 months ago, but I know, right? Because my mindset has shifted. My priorities have shifted, and I am at the top of my priority list now, right? And one of the reasons that at least I noticed that, you know, going on a walk felt like a chore, reading, right? Going to bed at a certain time felt like a chore is because I wasn't in the mindset to do it to begin with. I wasn't being nice to myself before I decided I was going to go on a walk. Yeah. Right? I was already being super hard on myself. So starting super small and genuinely accepting that, like, you know, it's going to take time, right? It's going to take time to get into whatever disciplined habit I want to be in. Like, that is what really changed it for me. Because I feel like it's so easy to not be kind to yourself in the sense that, you know, you could be doing more, right? And it's like a double-edged sword, I would say, right? Like, it's super powerful, right? That you're always striving for the next thing, never ready to settle. You always have something more, right? Yeah. But then it's so easy with that and that mindset to not appreciate what's already there, right? To not be grateful for what you already have. Because if you're not grateful for what you already have, never in your life do I think, like, you will be content, right? You could have everything you could want and more. But if you're after that thinking about what's next too, and not just taking in everything you have, like, then what are you even doing it for, right? Like, if you're not nice to yourself, then what are you even doing it for, right?
That's like, I had never connected that contentment with self-love and being nice to yourself. And you can really be anywhere and be truly content because you have you and you know you'll take care of you and you love you. But it's so easy to, out of an unhealthy way, always just want something else because you're not comfortable to just sit down with yourself. It's not the easiest thing to get to, but once you get there, it's like all you need is the simplest things to be content. Yeah. To be good. Yeah. And the key would be gratitude, it sounds like.
Yeah. At least I think so. Like, I think just being grateful for what you have around you, like, allows you to be present in the moment. Right? I don't think there is literally nothing that can create more time, right? There's nothing that can give you back the time that you had now. And that's a huge reason why, like, one of the first questions you asked me, right, was like, are you excited for UCLA, right? Like, yeah, of course I am, right? But I genuinely am. Every single day I'm sitting with what I already have, right? That part of my life is coming. I know it's coming. And when I get there, I'll be grateful for being there. Yeah. Right? But at this point in my life right now, like, I'm so grateful that I have my mom's food. Yeah. I'm so grateful that my family is here. My little baby is here. My little niece, she's everything to me. She's like, she's like me when I was little. I see myself in her so much.
How old is she?
She's just turned 6.
That's a funny.
The sassiest little.
Yeah, that's a wild. They talk like crazy.
Oh yeah, sassy. Okay, and she throws up like kissy faces and like peace signs for pictures like no one's business. And you'll tell her she's cute, and she'll be like, I know.
Dang, I love that. I love girls
and like that. I raised that girl. But I love her so much, and like looking back at her and like looking back at the younger people in my life, they're untouched by the world, right? They have nothing but love for the world and for the day. They have pure love for their parents, right? Mommy's their hero, daddy's their hero. Yeah. They don't have anything to worry. They don't have school to worry about. She draws like circles and colors triangles, and you know that was her hardest day at school. That's so right? Cute. Like, they just have so much life in them. Yeah, so much life in them, and I'm so connected to her and my brother. And I was a volleyball coach, so I coached 12-year-olds, and I personally lost my love for the sport. Playing volleyball took everything out of me, right? But the reason that I stayed connected to the sport itself is because I was able to coach little 12-year-olds who had nothing but pure untouched love for the sport, where it didn't matter if they made a mistake. Yeah. Right? It didn't matter if they didn't win the game, right? It didn't matter if they had like the worst practice ever. They still came back the next day, the next point, the next game with just ready to play because they were just happy to be there, right? My niece is just happy to exist, right? And I just think that stage in life is so beautiful. And everyone is always so eager to get out of it, right? Everyone's so eager to grow up, and I was a victim to that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was surrounded by older people my whole life. I've been looking forward to UCLA for how long, right? I've been looking forward to when I could drive. Like, for my license, like, learning permit, I accidentally went a month too early, like a full 30 days, because I like totally miscalculated like 15 and 6 months. So I accidentally went 15 and 5 months, like, on the dot.
That's so cute.
Yeah, so
I'm ready. No, you're not.
Yeah, I was so ready. Like, and so obviously went back 15 and 6 months on the dot, right? And I started driving like a week after my 16th birthday. I was just ready and eager to grow up.
Yeah.
Right? And so I look back and, like, I genuinely wonder, like, where did everything go? Right? And, like, that's a huge part of, like, now in my life, like, at 18, like, it's so important to me to just take in everything around me, because it's not always going to be here, right? Time is going to take it away.
Yeah.
So it's so important for me to just take all that in, appreciate what I have, who I have, right? While at the same time focusing towards my goal, right? Focusing towards the goals that I do have, the ambitions, the, like, what I want my future to look like. I used to think it was impossible to do all of it, right? How do you work towards the future and think about what's next and focus on yourself at the same time?
Yep. That's
right.
Difficult.
Yeah, it definitely is difficult. 100%, but it's not impossible, right? It's not impossible. And me personally, I love challenging, like, the what's not possible, right? Or the what's hard, right? So, like, yeah, that's kind of just what it's been like for the past few weeks. I love my little babies. Like, I just see full, genuine joy and light inside of them. And when I think back to how I was when I was younger, right? Like, with her little slime business and with her rainbow loom business and, like, learning henna for the first time, like, I had nothing but just pure love and light for life. And I never, ever want anything to take that light away from my little baby, right? And at the same time, like, I owe it to myself not to let anything take that light away from me.
Yes. And that light is so real. It taints so many adult souls when, like, now that we're young adults and we associate to these adults, and you're like, where did your loss for the love of life? Like, where did you lose it? Because we were all kids one day.
When did you become so miserable?
Yeah,
right?
so like, miserable. You can do whatever you want. Like, you have the freedom to do anything.
Right.
Yeah. And when you see it in a kid, and I think that's really healing when one has fascination with, like, maybe a baby in their life, and they're like, you're so cute, your development, everything's so new. It's a reminder that, like, we can't lose that. We can't think that business is ever not fun and exciting, and, like, those risks that you take is exciting. It's not like, dang it, here we go, another money move. No, it's exciting. It's a risk. Or, like, with sports, for fighting, for me, I get so excited to do these competitions, and part of me wants to be like, okay, you have to win, and I'm like, I don't have to win. I'm going because I love jiu-jitsu and I love fighting and I want to know where I'm at. Right. And it's like shifting, like a kid. I'm going to go in there, do my best, and have fun, and not be attached to the results. Like, that perspective is the only perspective, like a childlike perspective and mentality with discipline, is how you actually get to do what you love in the adult world. Yeah. Because a lot of people are just kind of moody, miserable, sad, and very mundane in their routine. But it's like, if you were your happiest childhood self, what risk as an adult would you take right now?
Exactly. Right. Yeah. That's, like, a huge question. That's the question I'm going to think about tonight before I go to sleep. Right. Like, and I think a huge part of that is, like, the environment that you're in and the people that you're surrounded by, right? Like, I cannot emphasize this enough. Like, you are the product of your environment. You think the way the people around you think. It's, like, basic human psychology, right? And, like, I'm just so, like, fortunate that, like, even we're able to sit here and have that conversation, right? Like, I'm fortunate that I'm surrounded by people who do think the same way. And it's not like I just got lucky and these are the people in my life. No, I've always been very intentional of who's in my life. Yeah. Right? Who do I want there? Right? What are they adding to my life? What can I add to theirs? Right? Like, how do I, like, this is my world. This is my oyster. This is my platform. My life is my platform. I can do whatever I want with it. Right? And I know that what I don't want with it is to be miserable in my life. Right? Is to grow up and to be suctioned into a job that I never wanted. Right? Or to be surrounded by people that don't make me happy. Or to wake up every day and not want to be awake, kind of thing. And that's so real. It happens very often, right? But even just the people, like the people that I look up to in a professional way, right? Like the CEO of the Neon Exchange. Her story is one of my favorites, and I've heard it so many times. The
CEO of the what?
The Neon Exchange. That's a very amazing building in downtown Gilroy, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the things that put Gilroy on the map.
Okay.
But she was a lawyer for a couple decades. Realized she wasn't happy, dropped everything, invested in this old beat up hotel downtown, and turned it into this absolutely gorgeous building. Gorgeous.
In Gilroy.
In our little garlic town. Yeah.
In our little garlic town.
Yeah. And hearing her story of she realized she wasn't happy and she took that step to change her life, that was huge. Because a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people ride out the unhappy, right? And a lot of people ride out the fact that they acknowledge that they're not like happy in their life. They acknowledge that their career isn't giving them passion and giving them that light that they know they have, right? So hearing her story and like, it's just so powerful. It's always been so powerful to me, right? But she is someone I surround myself with. She's someone I look up to, right? And because she's someone that reminds me that my life is my life, okay? And it's important that my life, it makes me happy.
And that selfish mindset could save the world.
Right.
Like, once you're like, I could do whatever I want. It's not like, oh, okay, you're like selfish.
Right.
It's like, because of that, watch how many people will get to come along the journey with you of like self-belief and empowerment and like sharing that light inside of us.
Right.
It's very possible. Now more than ever, it seems like what's impossible is possible.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Or maybe it's just being in the right environment at the right time and meeting the right people at the right time. And I'm like, you think like that? Like, you dream about having conventions? Right. You want to have like self-development retreats and sound bowl baths or whatever, like singing bowl baths. Like, those people are out there and they're finding each other, and it just seems like the future is bright. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like the future is hopeless.
Right.
It looks that way, but I don't feel like the future is hopeless. I feel like the future is bright. Right now feels hopeless, but the future.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of messed up things in the future that I can foresee, right? But like, us doing whatever we can control to create that better future is huge. Yeah. Right? Like, thinking about impacting, you know, the masses and the millions and the whatever, like, that's great. Don't get me wrong. That's amazing. That kind of impact is unreal, right? But then at the same time, touching one person, right? Touching one person's life, giving one person that vision, right? Bringing out that light in one person, or lighting it in the first place, right? Everyone has a light. Everyone has a little candle inside of them. They just need one person to light it. That's all it takes. Yeah. That's literally all it takes. And like, being able to, like, everyone has that one person, right? Everyone has that one person that did it for them, that one person they connected with, that one person that believed in them, right? And what I think is so beautiful is after their candle is lit, they can light other people's too, right? Again, like, one of my favorite motivational speakers says this, but he says, you're most qualified to help the person you used to be.
Wow.
Right?
Who said that?
I'm pretty sure it was Ed Milet. It was Ed Milet or Brendan Burchard. It was Ed Milet. I love that. And we've both been to a Brendan Burchard conference. Oh yeah,
that's wild.
Amazing. You need to see Ed Milet in person.
I haven't.
Beautiful.
Really? You've done that? When did you do that?
I had a convention in July for the financial business that I just started.
He was there?
Yes, he was there, because you know how he's like pretty big, pretty powerful kind of thing. All of that wealth creation and that whole platform he created came from the same financial company that I'm started with. So yeah.
And you do financial coaching?
Financial advising.
What's the difference?
Same thing. I guess on the card it says financial advisor.
On the card it says.
Coaching's really stressful, man. Like, but that's kind of what I've been into recently. And what's universal throughout everything I've ever done in my life, right? Like, you might think like, okay, what's the correlation between a nonprofit and like henna, right? Or what's the correlation between like a slime business and like financial stuff, right? Like, it might seem like there's no way they overlap. In every single thing I do, it helps someone in some way. The reason financial advising stuck out to me so much, besides the money isn't the money business thing, right, is because no one was there to give my dad financial advice when he needed it. Wow. Right? So with the company I'm working with specifically, World Financial Group, right, like, the whole model is no family left behind. No family left behind. That's awesome. And it's like very strategically geared towards the middle class, working class family that doesn't have the time, resources, or energy to access that same financial education that some more privileged people do.
That's a full circle.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because the charity was to help the students, and now you're helping the parents.
Right, 100%.
So to help the students.
Right, exactly. And it was, again, right back to like my parents and my dad, right? My dad, he owns businesses. Okay, this man thinks he knows about finances, right? But in reality, no one was there to teach him basic things that could have helped him now, right? With, again, very blessed that he's helping with like tuition and things like that, and I have a roof over my head, and like I don't have to worry about expenses because my dad like is there to support me with that, right? But I've seen like this man break his back and break his legs to be able to do that. I've watched him give up his entire life for that, when in reality, like, he was making the money, right? Had he just put it in the right places, he would have been a lot more secure now, right? Many years later. So being able to financially help some family, right, I know can change like their future, right? Because had someone done it for my dad, I've had this conversation with him so many times. Had someone done it for my dad, right, it would have changed his life. It would have made his today so much less backbreaking, so much less.
And it's
backbreaking.
not taught.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
It's like on every class it's not taught. Even
Yeah.
seeing how wealthy are people, it's like some of those people lose basic tactics. Like, you made a lot of money, but you're not saving it properly. Like,
Exactly.
when you hear those crazy stories of like super rich people like getting bankrupt, or just they're being terrible with their money, it's like, who's teaching these things if they're not taught at school? And if you don't find if you don't take a personal interest in it, like, you have, like, someone has to teach it somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, that's really cool. You have so many opportunities to teach those basic principles.
Yeah. And it's really not that hard. Like, it really isn't.
They try to hide that from us.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because right now, like, the financial industry in general, like investment firms, insurance firms, banks, it's a very transactional approach, right? Like, you go there, you tell them what you want, whatever account like you want to open, and they'll give you answers to the questions that you ask, right? And that's about it. They'll open your account, 15-30 minute session, and that's about it, right? If you don't ask the right questions, they're not going to give you said information, right? Or they're not going to show you what could potentially be better, because they're not there to sit down with you and your dreams and your goals and your financial goals, right? Because again, it's a transactional approach, right? So like, part of what I do is a whole educational approach, right? Like, because my dad knew from before he even married my mom, right, that he wants to pay for his kids' college, right? He wants to create some sort of like income protection and things like that. He knew his financial goals very, very early on. A lot of people often do, right? Especially if they're working class family. They know their goals. They know why they're working, right? And a bank's not going to sit down with you and care what your long-term financial goals are, right? Not on a personal level. And a lot of, I feel like, privileged like people have the opportunity to have like a private financial advisor that also charges on top of the what you're already saving and what you're already investing kind of thing, right? So like, what I love about what I do is that it's absolutely zero cost to the customer.
Why?
Right, absolutely. Just with the company that I work with, because it's North America's largest financial distribution company. So that platform in itself is very like structured enough.
And you get paid through the company?
Yeah. Instead of through we'll meet and talk about this later.
That's so
but
cool.
That's just something that I've been interested in. But back to like the main point of it, it's helping people. It's helping people in a very different way, right? Because yes, motivation, empowerment, and things like that are amazing, right? But for the working class families, right, like, they need financial support as well. Like, there's so many aspects to being like successful and happy in America, and sometimes financial stress is the reason people are miserable in their life.
Oh, it's so
right?
much.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's why kids can't go to proper daycares, or they can't go to certain private schools if that's a need, or they can't get proper tutoring. Like, money is such an issue.
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started on the education system. Oh my gosh, I've been working in education for the past 3.5 years for a charter school district.
Wow.
So I work for 3 different school sites, and I did my entire senior thesis on how messed up the education system is. And
I didn't go to college, so I literally don't know, because I already think it's corrupt. I'm like, I'm gonna be screwed.
Oh, that's so real.
Yeah, but it's like, it's also because there's the other part of it where I'm like, I know how it is. It's not gonna gear towards me being able to go. You know, I won't get certain loans, and I don't care enough to have like someone pay for me for something that's not guaranteed a career out of it.
Right.
But it's interesting because college is changing too.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's more optional than it's ever been.
One of our upcoming Common Connection, little spoiler, that like our team was talking about doing was like, the segment's going to be called College Isn't for Everyone, because it isn't, right? So just people who didn't take the traditional route of going to a 4-year, right? And like, how they obviously are okay. And that's more than okay, right? Everyone is different. Everyone has different needs and different goals and different aspirations, and everyone's at a different point in their life. And trying to put everyone into some cookie cutter mold of like your successful American citizen,
right,
is very, like, it's very toxic.
when the truth is, people really just want money.
Oh, yeah.
Not worry about. And it's like, first think about your career and then see if you need college for it.
Yeah.
If you do, you might need to go to college. If you don't need to go to college, and you get to save about $60,000, whatever people pay for college these days. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But when you were talking about financial advising, I was like, that literally always makes so much sense, because when you start working in service and you start caring about people, hearing their problems, hearing their struggles, you're like, oh, I see. The problem is finance. The problem
Right.
is the fact that, like, you don't have time, or you don't have the ambition, the energy. It's like you see a lot of struggle because of this financial issue that exists.
Yeah.
So I really see how you do full circle your work, and you make it like a full-on completion. And I really applaud you and respect what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It is just the food for my soul. It's just service in any aspect, shape, or form. And that's, again, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because I love anything and everything, right?
I love everything.
I love everything. I have so many passions, and I have so many things I want to do with my future, and I just wish I was immortal and had the time and money and energy to do it all, right?
Honestly, you're gonna do it all. You're just gonna meet people that can save you the immortality of getting it done within your lifetime.
Right.
But we're about at an hour, so I'll leave you with this question. What does it mean to you for one to elevate every day?
To want to elevate every day means to go into every day with an intention. And I think starting your day with an intention, having an intention, living your life with intention is the key to elevating every single day. Being intentional about the words that you use, right? We didn't even touch on how important empathy is and how important being able to connect with people is. Like, people are, right? So having that intention behind your words, having that intention behind your actions, having that intention behind your goals, behind your to-do list, behind what you do every single day is so important. Because I think without intention, people are very lost. You don't know what you're doing without intention, right? And without a very clear, genuine, good intention. So I wake up every single day with the intention of making it a good day. I think to have a good day is BS, right? In our emails, like the manager of like our volleyball club, she ends her emails with "make it a good day."
That's awesome.
Make it a good day. And I totally agree.
Yep.
Have a good day is BS. Make it a good day. You have the power to make it a good day. You just need the intention to make it a good day. So in order to elevate your everyday, if I could say one thing to everyone, it's to have intention. It's to have intention and know why you have that intention. Don't just do something to do it. Don't just have intention to have intention, right? But it's really important to be connected to who you are, where you come from, why you're doing what you're doing. I do everything I do because that is how my parents raised me. I do everything I do because I've watched my dad work countless hours for it. I do everything I do because I know that my mom is proud of me, because I know that I am her. I know that she's living vicariously through me, right? My intention, big or small. There's long-term intentions, short-term intentions, big intentions, small intentions. My big intention is to make my mom proud. My big intention is to change my community one person at a time, right? My big intention is to not die with greatness still inside of me, right? My small intentions are to drink a glass of water throughout the day, right? It really is little things. And having that intention of being like, I need to stay healthy. I need to drink the water. That's like, it's the same thing. But regardless, every single day, in order to elevate the day, it's so important to stay connected to all of that. And it's not easy either, right? But something as simple as sitting there before you go to sleep and asking yourself, what the hell am I doing? What the actual hell am I doing? How am I here? Why am I doing it? And if you don't have an answer, that's your first sign to change something in your life. That's the very first sign. And the last thing anyone wants to do is to have a midlife crisis. Be laying there in bed, ask, what the hell am I doing? What was your intention? Why are you here? Right? The earlier you start asking yourself that, the earlier you live your life with intention, with good intention, good goals, good reasons, the better off I think everyone's going to be.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and making this happen so last minute. I super believe in you, and whatever you end up doing or plan to do, I super support and stand behind anything you do. Your heart is phenomenal. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I can't get over. I was doing your henna and you were talking about making this.
Yeah.
And here you are. And I know for a fact that like people are listening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people genuinely have gratitude for you and what you decided to do. I hope you know how huge that is. Genuinely. You decided to do something and it's impacting people's lives every single day. And that scope is only going to grow. Okay, this isn't something that's going to go down, right? You're only going to reach more people. You're only going to invite more people to come speak. You're only going to be doing this more, right? Ideally, right?
Hopefully.
But yeah. Right? Yeah. But that's so powerful. You being you and not being afraid to do what you wanted to do. That is changing people's lives. That is making a difference because you pushed past the fear and the risk. You looked at it with excitement, and now you're leaving your mark on the world and on the planet, and that is huge, and I commend you for that, and I hope you know that.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot. Especially like you're crazy. I do not meet people like with your heart and your ambition, and I'm just excited to see you excel off in LA.
SoCal. Hollywood ain't ready for me.
It's not ready. Just kidding. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Keep elevating every single day and have a beautiful day. Goodbye.